Okay, it says that it's recording. Yes, okay, so recording has started. So as I was saying, this is UM201. So my name is Arvind Iyer. My office is in the maths department. For now, I will let me determine. So office hours will be determined later. So I'll plan to set aside one hour a week for you to discuss anything you want. Of course, again, this will be forced to be online. But yeah, but you can contact me and also by appointment. So if you want to discuss with me for whatever reason, please send me an email. So the prerequisites for the course are whatever you have already taken. We will use some calculus at the level that you have already seen in 101 and 102. But actually we will not go into proofs. So for those of you who took maths in +2, that at that level will be enough. So integral and differential calculus at that level should be enough. So right. Okay, so the website for this course, I'll just show you in a second, but so it's maths.isc.ac.in /tilde my first name /um201. So all of these are case sensitive, so you have to use lowercase letters. Okay, so grading will be done on Teams. There's on our Teams meeting, there's a assignment session and a grading session, and you will see your scores on that. Okay, so right, so what else? So homeworks. So right, as I promised, let me show you the course website. So this is the course website. All the information is here. And what was I saying? Yeah, so about homeworks. So the information about the textbooks is there, and I'll come to all of that in a second. So I have put up a tentative class plan for the entire semester. You can see it here. I will of course keep updating it. So if I go faster in some sessions than I expect, then I'll modify accordingly. And I have also given a tentative quiz schedule for the week. So we roughly expect to have 14 quizzes. I suppose there's one possible holiday on this day, and so we might not have a quiz that day. So maybe 13, but at least 12 quizzes. And you see this column over here, the right column. I'll post. So this will be posted after every lecture. From the textbook. I'll tell you more about it in a second. These are not to be submitted. But strongly encouraged. Strongly encouraged to be attempted. And so quizzes, these will be held every week in the tutorial sessions. And these will be based on the homework. So this is the reason why you are strongly encouraged to attend them. So the plan right now is that we will, I'll give you a homework at the end of every class, and you should attempt them. And the week after the lecture, I mean the first tutorial after that lecture, you will be potentially tested on the material with a quiz. I'll tell you more about the nature of the quiz in a second, but the idea is that you attempt the problems, and maybe for this class I'll switch on my video. So you attempt the problems, and you discuss at the first, let's say 3/4 of the class, you discuss the problems that you had trouble with, and with the tutor, and then in the last 15 minutes you'll be tested on some of the material. Okay, but I encourage all of you to attempt the problems before joining for the tutorial. I mean, in particular, what I have made very clear to the tutors, and I'm making it clear to you also, is that I do not encourage you to come there unprepared. So, for example, I don't want you to come there and say, oh, I could not solve problem 1.2, tell me how to do it. So, and the tutor will solve everything for you. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I do not want. Whatever problem you ask the tutor to submit, you should be prepared to show what you did, what you attempted, what ideas you had before the tutor helps you out. Okay, so that's the rough plan. Okay, right. So in terms of, so there will be one midterm, tentatively on 22nd September. So as you might remember, 1 week is assigned for midterms. So I'm assuming that's the week of 20th September. If not, we'll adjust it. But tentatively, this is the time, this is the date, and expect a 2-hour exam. And the final either end of November or beginning of December. Right, and the grading scheme, the grade allotment is because of this online mode, we are stressing continuous assessment, so that's there on the website. So 40% for the quizzes, 30% each for the midterm and the final. Okay. Alright, so maybe I should write that. So quizzes 40%, midterm 40%, final. Okay, so I expect as I said, the quizzes to be based directly on the homework. So if you attempt the homework problems, either by yourself or in discussion with your friends, I don't care, but the key point is to understand, and if you do that, you should be able to get a reasonable score in your quizzes. So I'm stressing that if you follow this regular assessment program, you should be able to do fairly well in the course. Of course, there are no guarantees of anything, especially on a course like on statistics, but this is my hope. Okay. By the way, please ask if there are any questions. Oh, somebody said okay, yes. Yes, please do remind me. So for now, this is a large class, and I have not had the opportunity to teach such a large class online. But for now, let us be lenient, and let me ask you to unmute yourself and ask if you have a question. If this becomes too unwieldy later, we can revise the policy. But for now, at least for the first class, please unmute yourself and ask for any questions. I mean, right now we are just discussing administration, so it's important that you understand all of this. So yeah, please ask. Okay.
So what is Q0?
Yes, so I'll come to that in a second. Yeah, so I'm okay, maybe I can say it now. So I'm tentatively I don't have the course roster yet, so I don't have the list of people who have registered for the course yet. So I cannot yet divide you into sections. So tomorrow at the same time we will meet, and I'm planning, let's say 15-20 minute quiz, just to see how it works, multiple choice quiz, which I will conduct just for tomorrow. But this is quiz 0. I mean, you should take it lightly. I'll probably drop it anyway. But please do attempt it. I want to see how this works. Okay. But I'm not promising to drop it, so please don't bunk it. Okay. Yes. Any other questions? Yeah. Interrupt me anytime. Okay. So, all right. Okay. So about the exams, all exams and quizzes will be closed book and closed notes, and no electronic devices are allowed.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, will all the quizzes be considered for grading, or will best of some certain number of quizzes will be taken into account?
Thank you, thank you. Yes, I was going to say that. I thought I made a note of that. Yes. So I was going to come to that. Yes. So about makeups. So I will not take any. So none, basically. The short answer is none. If you have a medical reason, reason for absence, or the quizzes or the mid-sem, or the exams, sorry. I will need a doctor's note. So present a doctor's note. And I will adjust the grades. And for the quizzes, as I was just asked, so I will drop the lowest 2 quizzes. Okay, so I mean that should rest your mind at ease. I mean, if you did not do well in one or the other quiz for whatever reason, you need not worry so much. I will drop the lowest two of them. And if you have a doctor's note, for example, I will still drop the lowest two after disregarding that. Okay? I hope that is clear. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So will the lectures be live or pre-recorded?
So I will lecture live and I will post them online on YouTube. I'll send the link in the chat.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So you can watch them later. I was going to say that also. Okay. Thank you for reminding me. So lecture. So notes will be uploaded on Teams after the lecture, including this one, for example. And the videos will be uploaded on YouTube. I'll give a private link. I mean, in the sense, anybody can watch it if they have it. Very good. What else? I think I've more or less covered everything. Yeah, so a couple of other things maybe I should say. So regarding cheating, I have absolutely no tolerance. If you know that someone is cheating, please you'll help all of us by creating an anonymous account on Gmail or whatever and sending me an email. I mean, I don't need to know who you are. I just need to know who are cheating, so send me an anonymous email. I sympathize with your difficulties in the online mode, but you should remember that everybody else is also suffering. You are not the only one, and resorting to dishonest practices is not something that I condone. The penalties can be anything up to failing the course. So I'll impose harsh penalties in consultation with the team. Okay, so please do not cheat, and please do not use the online excuse to cheat. I mean, for the quizzes, if we find you're cheating, we'll give you a warning. So there'll be a first warning for the quizzes, but no warning for the midsems or the ends. If you are caught cheating on the quiz, we'll give you a 0 and we'll warn you not to do it again. But if you are caught cheating again on the quizzes or on the midsems independently, you should be prepared to leave the institute. And these are very serious things. Okay, last thing I have on my notes is about trouble. So I have taught UG first year course several times, and I know that many of you are not comfortable with mathematics. So if you are struggling with the course, please contact me and I'll try to help with whatever I can. In particular, if there are several of you struggling, I can put you all in touch with each other, and it always helps to discuss in groups, um, to whatever extent that means in the online mode. I mean, some of you I know are on campus, but I know that it's this material is hard, so for some of you, and I know it's maybe a bit too easy for some of you. So this is the problem with the maths courses in the first 3 semesters. I mean, for some of you who are more mathematically inclined, this may be easy and maybe even boring. But for those of you who have not done mathematics since 10th standard, this might be quite hard. So there is the split between the students that we have seen over the years, and unfortunately there's nothing more we can do about it, but to help in the best way possible. So if you are struggling with this material, we can have extra sessions. I can request one of the TAs to take extra classes, and so on and so forth, and we can try to help you to the best of our abilities. But of course, the onus is on you. I mean, if you are struggling with this course, it's just you just have to maybe budget more time for this course compared to the others. I know your schedules are pretty packed, but in my defense, I did not design the curriculum, and so we can help within the framework that we have. Okay, we can organize
Sir?
like extra classes and so on. Yes, Anjaneya?
So the Q0 will be objective type, and the other quizzes will be scan and upload type.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that's a very good question. Yes, Q0, at least I'm planning right now to set it up as an objective type. The other quizzes, as Anjaneya just pointed out, will be the traditional, whatever you have seen over the last 2 semesters. I suppose you will see a PDF. You will write down your answers either on a tablet or on a piece of paper, and then upload and scan in the assignments tab, and that's how it should work. Yeah, thank you for asking. I should have said that maybe based on homeworks and the assignments tab. Scanned and uploaded. Another thing I wanted to say in the trouble section, if you have a problem with a particular TA for whatever reason, with your TA, I can again let me know. I can move you to another TA. I mean, whatever reason, there are always personality issues. So if you, or whatever issues, okay. If you are not comfortable understanding, I mean, if you're not comfortable interacting with a particular TA, we'll organize some backup. Right. Yeah, so okay, so good. So let me tell you about the textbook. So as I was saying, so the main textbook for this course is this book by Ross. Can you see it? It's called Introduction to Probability and Statistics for Engineers and Scientists. It's there in the library. There are several copies in the UG library. So for those of you who are there, you can try to get it. So I'm using the 4th edition. So all the problem numbering will be from there. So there's usually no difference between, or not much difference between various editions, but the numbering is important. So I will follow the 4th edition. So that's what I have listed here, and I've given you the ISBN number in case you want to look. I will also use occasionally another book by Ross called First Course in Probability. Um, for some examples and some statements, it's better. There is a very nice book on statistics by Friedman, Pisani, and Purves. It's an unusual book in the sense that it has very, very few equations. So for those of you who are, as I mentioned, not very mathematically inclined, this is actually a very nice book. It conveys all the intuition that you need to know for statistics, virtually without any equations. It has plenty of examples to help you guide your intuition, but it's only for statistics. So that's the drawback. So maybe one half of this course. And there is a more, this is book by Atreya, Sarkar and Tanner. So I'll just open it for you. So this is not yet published. So they're updating it. So you can download individual chapters. And if you are comfortable with the R programming language, you can learn the R programming language to understand the examples. Okay. So these are about the textbooks. Any questions? If I need some material from some other textbook, I will put it in the posts on the teams, on our team. I'm not sure how best to. What's the new terminology for systems? Okay. Anyway. Any other questions? Please ask. Okay. So if you have a question, it might also be relevant to other people. So it's good to ask. Okay. I think that's all I had. Right, so here is the list of TAs for the course. So I will divide you into 7 sections, basically following the algorithm that Vamsi followed for you last semester, which was just some time ago. We'll discuss more about the modalities of the quizzes later. So let me see what the class size is and how to distribute you and all that, and then maybe before the next Tuesday, which is the second tutorial, we'll come up with some algorithm. Right. Okay. Yes? Huh. Yes, Kenan.
Sir, Kenil Lajutia.
Yes. I didn't hear you.
Is there
What was
any chance of in-person classes?
Is there any what? Sorry?
Chance for in-person classes?
Yeah, I was really hoping for it. Actually, some of your batchmates came to my office last week, and we were thinking about how to organize in-person classes. I mean, we could have done something where a few of you are allowed to come into the lecture hall, but we're simply not allowed. If this were a small class, I could try to do some social distancing and something, but unfortunately it's not allowed. I think it's decided now that for the entire semester it will again be online. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. I mean, it's also boring for me to lecture like this. And, I mean, well, unless one is interacting with students, one doesn't know how to go about the material often. I mean, or what to emphasize, what not to emphasize. So if without these cues that one gets in a classroom lecture, it's difficult for us also. But of course, not as hard as for some of you. Maybe I will conduct a poll. I want to know how many of you are there on campus. Maybe I'll just, let's see.
Sir,
Yes.
actually 53 boys, if I remember correctly, and 11 girls are on campus right now,
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you.
as
So,
far as my knowledge is concerned.
okay. So that's a good number. So 53 plus 9, so that's 62. So about 60% of the class is there on campus, and maybe yeah. So okay. So some people had raised their hands. Do they want to say something?
No, sir, we had just raised our hands in response to your question.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So, okay. So, right. So, potentially what we could do is we could have the tutorials physically, but again, we don't have that many classrooms. So, if we organize you into 7 sections, then we don't have 7 rooms. We don't even have 7 lecture halls in the department. So let's say if it's what is 100 divided by 7? Okay. Maybe some 17 or something. No, less. 15 or 16, whatever. So we'll have to space 15 of you far apart. So even that I don't think would be possible. So, I mean, that would make things easier for me, because cheating would be much more difficult, etc., etc. But yeah, it looks like we cannot do that. Yeah, what to do? Right. So, any other questions? Okay.
So
So,
the grading will be relative, right?
yes, grading will be relative. Yes. Yes. CNN. Yeah. So. And
But sir, in the previous semesters, what happened is some of the students in the batch are very well in mathematics, so they will score very high, so that some students get a low grade to this relative even after they are getting 80% above or 90% above.
Right. I know this problem since I taught. I told you I taught earlier also. Yes. So I will compensate for it. Okay. Don't worry. So those who are, if there are like 2-3 students getting 100 on 100, and everybody else is in the later on, I will discount them. Of course, they will get A pluses for sure, but I will start the grade calculation later. Yeah, I will take that into account. Don't worry.
Thank you.
I have experience in these things. Yeah. Right. But please don't use that as an excuse to to perform poorly, or don't justify a poor performance. I mean, this is a course on statistics, so 100 students is a large number, right? I mean, if it were 10 students, then it's a different thing. But we have 100 students, so if you perform poorly, you cannot say that, oh, I'm weak in maths, because there are other people who are weak in maths also, and if they are performing well relative to you, then uh, it's not entirely my fault. Let's say, you could argue that I'm a poor teacher and therefore you did badly. So that's an argument you could have made, or you could make even now. But if everybody else has performed well and you have performed badly, that's not an excuse. And this is just a disclaimer, of course. All right. Yes. Okay. So I have, as I was telling you, I have this outdated version of Teams. So because I work on Linux, and I can only see 4 of you at a time. So not even 9. I mean, that's the minimum, right? For in other operating systems. Okay. So anyway, so what I will do to try to sort of keep you on your toes maybe is to periodically ask you questions, because I want to know that you are present. So I will not call out names. I think that is a bit unfair. But if it gets too bad, I'll come up I mean, in the sense that nobody responds to my questions, then I'll come up with some scheme to force you to answer. Otherwise, as I said, it gets very boring, and I'm talking to a wall right now. Right. So I will periodically ask you questions, and please do answer. I mean, there's no wrong answer. I want to. The purpose of asking questions is not to check how smart you are and so on. It's also to give me feedback about how well I'm able to explain what the concepts are. Okay. So right. If there are no more, okay. So let me wait a minute for questions. Okay, very good. So let me start on a new page. By the way, also please let me know if my screen freezes or there's some other problem with the internet connection here. I don't want to keep blabbering without. I mean, sometimes I don't realize. Teams does not let me know that there's a problem. Okay. So my rough plan, as you might have seen from the website, is I want to roughly divide the course half into probability and statistics. I will start with statistics initially, and then basically to motivate probability, and then I will come back to using probability for statistics. Okay. All right. So here is. So next couple of lectures may be purely qualitative and some quantitative, but mostly qualitative. So statistics is basically the science of data. So it's basically trying to understand, is trying to glean information from data. So data science is something that you might have heard. I don't know if that term means anything more than statistics. I mean, there's certainly some discussion about it, but basically we are now in an age where we are flooded with data. You might have heard the term big data, for example, and we want to make sense of the data. Right? So that's what statistics is all about. And probability theory is a branch of mathematics concerned with chance, and it is the mathematics here that will underpin most of statistics. And so to understand our data better, we need tools from probability. Of course, I'm not saying one is a subset of the other. So both are very strongly related, and we'll talk more about it in the coming weeks. But roughly, statistics is not considered part of mathematics per se. The branch of mathematics most closely related to statistics is probability theory. But probability theory is concerned with things that are not of relevance to statistics, and also vice versa. Okay. So the aim of this course is to sort of explain various aspects of statistics that are important for any scientist, not just mathematicians. So I'll say that presently. So we have many kinds of data, as you can imagine. As I was saying, we are flooded with all kinds of data. So, there are several examples. Let's see. Yeah, this is just a very small sample. So, experiments in a lab, for example. You want to understand some physical phenomenon. I mean, let me not say physical, phenomenon in the natural world. So, you conduct experiments like in physics, or chemistry, or biology. It may surprise you to know that even mathematicians conduct experiments, though not in a lab. As a mathematician, I conduct experiments to understand what hypothesis I am testing about whatever mathematical object there are. So usually these involve I shouldn't say that. So these involve experiments sometimes on a computer, sometimes not, sometimes using pen and paper, whatever. Or observations, again about the natural world. So for example, you could have meteorological data, so something that you will see in the earth and environmental sciences major, or material science data. So I've basically covered all your majors. So the point of this is that every one of you needs to understand statistics and its limitations if you are going to work in these areas. Of course, if you work in virtually any area nowadays, you need to know the statistics, and in particular, there's a wide misuse of statistics, and it's good to know what is to figure out when is somebody trying to pull a fast one. Okay, so there's all kinds of government data, for example. Census, for example, GDP, economic data, rainfall, and probably my last example is epidemiological, I think. Most current topic of relevance, like what am I doing? Like the current pandemic, we generate a lot of data, and we need to be able to understand it, right? So network data, for example, movie preferences. So if you have Netflix, you watch movies. Netflix wants to understand. So Netflix has this data. All the people watching all these movies. It wants to predict what kind of movies you would like. Social networks. Why do you think Facebook lets you use its services for free? It's because they want to understand your preferences. I mean, if I wanted to be charitable, I would say they want to sort of understand human behavior in general, but they also monetize it. They sell this data to their partners and make money off it. Okay, so right. So this is broadly the kind of things that one will have. You know, you could also have companies have their own data set. For example, if a company is making some machine, then you know, is manufacturing something, let's say drills, for example, you know, then they know that some drills will fail. I mean, the machine will not produce a good drill once in a way, and then if they have to ship certain number of drills, they have to account for that. So they have to know how much extra to make. But on the other hand, they should not make too much extra, because then they are losing money. So you know, so the data is involved all in such things also. Insurance, for example, is all about data. How much premium should you ask the consumer to pay for, I don't know, car insurance or health insurance or life insurance? You know, this is not just some arbitrary number that they pull out of a hat. There's a whole science. So in fact, the name of this science is actuarial sciences. So this is a whole science concerned with estimating things like insurance. You know. So we are surrounded by data basically. Okay, so if I have not said that often enough, but you know how to make sense of it. So right. So let me now discuss aspects of data collection. Okay, aspects of statistics. Please stop me if there are any questions. Okay, maybe before that, let me give you an example. Okay, so here is an example. Let me write it. So, an example. You are given a coin. Okay, so somebody, so a friend gives you a coin. How do you decide if it is fair? Fair meaning you toss a coin. Okay, so what does it mean to be fair itself can lead us into philosophical ground. But fair means roughly you expect that it's equally likely for you to see heads or tails. Okay, so here is this this app that one of my colleagues has built, Professor Siddharth Gadgil. So this is a computer coin. So I want you to guess. So let me toss this computer coin maybe 10 times. Okay, so I'm tossing it 10 times, and it's telling me, oh sorry, I tossed it 11 times. Okay, never mind. So I've tossed it 11 times, and now you have to guess based on the data that you have whether it's fair or biased. So what do you think? I want somebody to answer.
Fair.
Fair. Okay, someone has said fair.
Fair.
Yes. So some of you are saying fair. I can't see who is answering. So okay, let's be safe. 10 is maybe too less. Okay, so let me do it 20 times. 18, 19, 20. Okay, now what do you think?
Still fair.
Still fair. Okay, let me guess. Sorry, it's not fair. Okay, so that's wonderful. I didn't design it, but it turned out that your guess was wrong. Let's see if we could have guessed it with more data. So it seems like this bias is so slightly off of fair that it's maybe not helping us. So let's do another experiment. So now let me again toss it 10 times. Okay, I mean, this is ridiculous. So what's your guess now?
Biased.
Biased, okay. That's my guess also. Let me toss it 10 more times. Okay, so now we would guess biased. But you see, that's because its bias is so bad So probability of heads is so low that it's virtually getting tails all the time. Okay, so let me take a new example. Okay, now what do you think? Okay, this is maybe on the borderline. Okay, I didn't design this, but this is maybe perfect. Okay, so what do you think?
Biased.
Biased. Okay, I'm hearing biased. Let me toss 20 times. Now what do you say? So you said biased
It's
earlier.
biased.
You still think it's biased. Okay, let's do it 10 more times. Now maybe it's more confusing.
Yeah, it's fair.
Probably the data is too small. The sample size is too small to.
No, but you have to guess based on what sample size you have. I'm forcing you to guess.
It appears to be fair.
It's fair probably.
Okay, so let's guess that. That's correct. So initially when in 10 coin tosses there was 7 and 3, and I said that it's tricky at this point, and some of you said maybe a little too confidently that it was biased, but it turns out to be fair. So this is a simple question. I mean, how can you get simpler than this? You're given a coin, you have to tell me whether it's fair or not, right? How do you decide? So this is the kind of question we will be able to answer at the end of this course. Okay, how do you decide if a coin is fair? It seems like a fairly simple question, and the question framed in this way is not does not have any numbers in it, right? I mean, you tell me how you will decide, but we need to put in numbers. I mean, this is where this is sort of the point of this course. So even questions which are purely pragmatic, I mean, and so in this example, here is this example from this website. So you can say 2 cricket teams are meeting and they have to do a coin toss before the match, but one of them brings a coin. How do you know that that coin is not doctored? I mean, it could be like Sholay, for example, both sides are heads. Then there is nothing to say. But if the probability is something like 3/4, then you don't want to use that coin. Right? So in this example, if you toss the coin 100 times and it comes up 90 times, I think most of you will agree that it's biased. But what if it is 60 times? What if it's 35 times? Where do you draw the line? That's the kind of question. And this, as I said, this has practical implications. So it's not just some joke. I mean, it's not just something that one is doing for playing as a game. One really needs to know the answers to such questions.
Sir?
Yes.
So for deciding the fairness of the coin, shouldn't we have the access to the, for example, a physical coin and know the physical structure of the coin, how it can be manipulated, or whether for this computer program we should have the access to the code, so we
Right.
can know that what can be the manipulations which can be made to decrease the fairness of the program or something like that.
No, that is, so I see what you're doing. So, for example, in principle, if you know everything about the coin, right? So let's take a physical coin. So if you know everything about the coin, then Newton's laws, which you have already learnt about, so if you know the initial condition, you should be able to say what's going to happen, right? You know this. I mean, you have studied rotational equations of motion, translational equations of motion. So you know this coin is going to do both, and you write down everything, and in principle you could do it, but this is clearly too much work for just one coin toss, right? And the problem is also there is a deeper problem, which is that I toss a coin. How are you going to measure the impulse that I give the coin? Nowadays you have all kinds of gadgets, so you could presumably attach some meter to my thumb, and when I toss the coin, it will tell you exactly how much impulse I applied. But that may not be the case in practical situations. So, and the problem, okay, so sorry, I distracted myself. So even if you attach such an instrument to my thumb, it will only tell you the impulse to a certain degree of accuracy, maybe 2 decimal places in whatever the unit is, Newton meter or whatever, right? It's a unit of momentum. But you know that this is very, very sensitive. If I know a little, if I, don't know to the 3rd decimal place, maybe it's not going to give you the right answer. So there's very sensitive dependence on initial conditions. You need to know all kinds of data. So it's feasible to assume that it's feasible to model this whole information about the coin, its density, its, how it's, whether it's biased or not, in terms of one single number, which is the heads, probability of heads. That's much less work and perhaps much more accurate, because there's also a cost-benefit ratio here, right? How much effort are you going to put in to just determine a single coin toss? In principle, you can, but in practice, no. Just to play a cricket match, are you going to, take out all your calculus textbooks and, sit down and do some horrible calculation? It makes no sense. So it's, and again, the same for your, the same point maybe is relevant for your computer code. So it is true, and you probably learned this, that the algorithms that decide randomness on a computer are not truly random algorithms. They're called pseudo-random algorithms. So they don't, they are not truly random in that sense. But, they will depend on, they can be made to depend on things like the millisecond at the instant that the button is clicked. And then what do? How will that help you? You cannot control the millisecond that you click. It's impossible. Right? So we should basically treat these things as black boxes. That is the point. And these black boxes will not output the same thing in a deterministic manner, but in a probabilistic manner. Right? And okay, so this is roughly the idea, but we will talk more about this. Yes, but this is certainly a very valid question. One can ultimately, even laws of quantum mechanics are deterministic in nature. So where is the randomness, you could ask? But there is randomness because of our inability to solve the problem.
Professor?
Yes.
Given a coin, do we know how many trials we need to perform so that we can be reasonably certain whether it's biased or not?
Yeah, that's the kind of question we want to ask. Yes.
Do we know that?
What do you mean we know that?
Do we know that? I'm asking. Is it known if?
That's so. Let there be some suspense in life, no? I don't want to give away all the answers on the first day. But of course, I told you the text. This is the textbook, so you can feel free to read it, and you'll get the answer. Right. But yeah, that is the kind of question we want to answer. Right. So, and this is the kind of question that is relevant to everybody, no matter whether they're doing mathematics or some other science, or even if you're going to go for a software job. This kind of question is important. To be able to understand data properly and to be able to understand when people are trying to make a fool out of you by misinterpreting data. This is very important. Okay, so I think we have spent enough time on this. Okay, yes, Karthik, go ahead.
Yes, I was about to mention that the next class has started, so.
Yes, please, yes. Yeah, so we'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.